All right, hey guys, Sam here with you on, what are we at? We're on Tuesday, March 20th. And as is the case for us now, when we're posting videos, we put it out to a vote amongst the members. And no surprise, today the request was to do Bitcoin and Litecoin, actually. So we're going to do both of those, but one at a time. So I thought I would pick this up right where we left off. So the last video I did on Bitcoin was on Friday, and we had set up, we kind of a zone here that was really the last resort for bulls. And I know it's hard to see as you look at this now. We'll dig in there for a second. But this was the idea here, that there was, there was a very bearish count and a very bullish count that were unfolding here, and we were, it's uncertain about what was next. So we were looking for a reaction. So we had this very tight cluster and a confluence zone down here, which I talk about all the time, where you're looking for exactly that, a confluence of technical significance down here. So we have, with all tied to fib relationships, but in conjunction with that, we have a pattern here that we can play off of. So that was how we left it. And the idea was that if the bullish count was going to play, we had a last stand down here at the 786 for the idea that this was our one wave. We had the A, the very deep B, and we had the 5 waves coming down. So we finished with an A, B, and then 5 in the C. So when we dig in there, we can see that given the reaction here, now this count is, I'm starting to warm up to the idea of this count. Now, people know I'm long-term, I'm bullish Bitcoin. So I remind myself, partly when I talk to you and partly every time I look at a chart, to not let that cloud my judgment and try and stay as objective as I can in the analysis. But given the reaction here, this is starting to look like it could be in play. So what does that mean for us? Well, if we're going to do a wave 3 and we're going to hit those targets that we know are the high probability targets for a wave 3 relative to this 1-2. Now, given the deep 2, we get a nice juicy target up here. That's 17,644, at least here on Bitstamp where I'm looking at this. So a lot of things have to go right for us to get up there. But if this is playing as a 1, 2, 3, that's really, so we could put a channel on it this way, and you start to kind of get a handle and say, well, is that possible? Well, here's going to be major resistance. You can see that just setting up there. So you'll note that relative to the depth of this 2, where we literally tick the 786 and the -23. Well, so if we can anticipate the resistance we're going to run into. So from swing high to swing low, down to the 786. Here's the golden zone right here, which happens to be where we find the -23, the algo target. Even given the depth of that's still in play. So given that algo target right there, right at the channel, this is going to be a very interesting reaction to see what happens there. Now, that doesn't mean to suggest that we can't get through it. It just means to suggest that we got to be aware, know that that's there, right? So every trader on the planet knows that's there. So nothing complicated there. We're just taking the likely resistance zone here. We're going to have to get through this as well, as that's been tested twice. But it looks like we could be on our way. So if we can get through that, then the upside target that, again, just using probabilities, the most likely target for that wave 3, this is kind of a shorthand target, the -100, will be very close to the 1618. So that's a contender, right? All of that suggesting that we could be on our way to challenge the old highs. But again, a lot has to go right, and we've got a lot of resistance to get through. So I'm gonna take that off. So that's the point. What are we there? That's we'll call it 13,000, just to round it. That's going to be a significant level to get through, but we're a long way from that just yet. So, but let's dig in down here just so you can see how significant this was and why this kind of thing happens. Right? That's what we're all trying to get a handle on. So, so some people might look at that and say, well, that happened for the following fundamental reason. There's always some reason as to why the market's moving. You can rationalize it. You can say more buyers than sellers. I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to why a market moves. What I try and do is analyze if it's moving, how is it moving, and is it creating opportunities relative to us as traders where we can enter the market with low risk, high reward potential. Can we find that kind of scenario given the tool set that we use here? So you can see here, again, this was nothing, and I don't do this to, trumpet my own, call here. I didn't do anything fancy. Oh, this is really pretty straightforward. I just took the 2 to the 3. Here's the 50. There's the negative 23.6. And then just as I showed you, pulling from swing low to swing high, there's the 786, excuse me. And we just had a confluence zone. Now, in addition to that, we have the target here. So we get an ABC target. Here's the 1618. So just like the third, if you're projecting for a third relative to the length of the 1 projected from the 2, we know the 1618, 175 is the highest probability zone if you're going to get an Elliott count to unfold. Well, we get the same thing here. So we've got the 1618, 175 relative to the length of A projected from the B. So we get that same hot box down here. So we get this massive confluence down here. Last stand for bulls, 786, if that was going to play as a 1-2. Right, that's what I would tell you. Last stand there. We come down and we had the sharp A, the 3-wave B, and then we went down in 5. We had the last swing from the 2 here, significant pivot to the 3 low. There's the 50. There's the negative 23.6. So this big confluence zone down here, and we literally tag it and then look at the reaction. Right. So, and now as we watch this here, what's significant for this is that we've now just broken through the 65. So yeah, we got to check back. We got to check on all of these pivots. But there now we're getting through the 50. Here's the wave 1 low. That resistance has been cleared. Vegas wave. So all of this is resistance we've got to get through on the way. And it's not going to just go straight. We don't want it to go straight because if you didn't catch that low, we're now waiting for the first retracement so that we can, if you're not in it, you can get the opportunity to take the first pullback, right? So this looks like it's moving impulsively. As we dig in on a smaller time frame, we can get a clear view of the 5-wave structure that's in play here. But at some point here, we're going to reach a pocket where people are going to say, okay, that's enough, and that's what they'll start taking profit, or there'll be some event, something will cause the sellers the fear to kick in, right? So the fear kicks in. Those that catch this, whether they're trailing in stops or they're just reaching a point where they say, okay, that's enough, I'm going to take some profit. That's what starts the sell-off, and then stops start getting hit, and then the algos that are sellers here, they'll add fuel to the fire. So what we're looking for now, again, assuming that you didn't catch the low. If you did, well, we want to be conscious of the fact that eventually there's going to be a pullback. So how much of that, you just like anyone else who caught this, how much of that are you willing to allow are you willing to give back to the market? I should say it that way, knowing that there's a likely retracement here, and a minimum, it would be a 50% retracement. So are you comfortable giving back 50% of it? That's trader's choice. You got to make that decision. For the next entry, we kind of are just now waiting for that. Do we get that opportunity? Does it come down in 3? So let's go down here on a smaller time frame just so we can see that here. We'll go to the hourly. So here's that. Here's again, it's nothing miraculous that I've done here. I'm just identifying these pivots here. So this is not rocket science, right? So you can see even here on the hourly, 1, 2, 3, we get a 3-wave 4 reset. We're 38, and then we come down in 5, right? So look, we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, come down at 5. Just is perfect, and it tags the box. To the tick. Guys, you can say that it's coincidence. You can rationalize it however you want. Draw your own conclusions, but that you could be anticipating there that reaction there, given all the technical confluence. So there it is. Draw your own conclusions. So what do we do now? So actually, in the voting here, amongst members, they wanted to see it on Bitfenix. So I'm going to pop over to Bitfenix where I've got it teed up here. So this is a 30-minute chart here. We can take a look here. So this is broken down with a little bit more detail here. So here's the perfect tag on Bitfenix. It's to the tick, tags the 786, and then we get this reaction. So, again, nothing out of the ordinary here. So I'm actually going to take this off just to clear up the chart so we can start looking. Now, what are we going to run into? Well, we know from this pivot here to this low, right? That's the first one we got to run into. And we can see here, potentially here now, wave 1 has some resistance it's going to get through. Now, additionally, you know, for those of you that have followed me now, I'm just adding some volume profile here. If you haven't seen this before, I get a lot of comments, people saying, what about the volume? Can you add some volume analysis? Well, I do use volume profile. I just sort of introduce this stuff slowly here because there's a lot to understand here. But the idea here is we're looking, so this section here, that's 70%. You could consider it one standard deviation of where the volume is. So with volume profile, rather than traditional volume where you're getting volume based on time, in a volume profile chart here where you're on the other axis here, we're getting volume per price. So it has significance to us because we can see these zones where we know that there's a high amount of trading activity. What's significant here, just to keep it simple, is we're looking for low volume nodes. And if I take this off, you can see that we're running into this low volume node right here, which is, you know, you tell me, coincidental that happens to be right at the golden zone? So if I redraw this here, now identifying this, here, I'll do it this way. Let me get a horizontal line on that. So if I identify this low volume area here. Okay, so here's the low volume node. You see that? Now let me take this off because that's going to confuse us. That was the wave 1 low, which is no longer really significant other than potential resistance, which we are just running into right now. So if I pull from just swing high, so I'm just taking the B high right down to our low here. Okay, you know, coincidence, right? Maybe that we're running. So there's our little low volume node where we're anticipating like potential to run out of energy here right at the 618, right? So that should be not terribly surprising to anyone. We're looking at this. We're trying to get a handle. That doesn't mean we can't get through it, right? So even if we look here, if I dig into that a little bit more, we can see here, well, we'll get a 1, 2 here. You know, there was the thought early on that maybe this was our 3, this was our 4, but now given this price action that we're seeing, it looks like we're getting a little kicker here. We'll have to see what happens here, but this looks much more, this little area here looks much more like a 4th, right? Here's that classic crypto shallow C, which I'm glad to see returning. So if that plays, then we have the potential for a 1, 2. We're in our 3rd. There could be a 4, 5. If that's the case, then we have the potential for this to get beyond this just off of this count. So we'd be looking for something like that. Now, break here of the 6-5 would be significant. Bulls would like to see that. That'll get the algos on our side for that next retracement that we'd be looking for. So that's a little, I guess I had to raise that degree just so makes more sense. So let's get up to minuet. Okay, there we go. And then this would be the small one. Go down to sub-micro on that. Now, can we get through? Can we get through? You know, there's a couple of different ways we could read this. Given that we're bumping into this resistance here, we'll have to see if we can get through it. There's the possibility here that we could have an expansion here. We could have A, B, C into an A, into a B. There's a couple of different ways that we could have this unfold. So right now we want to see, is there enough bullish bias, enough buying here to get us through the obvious resistance here? Now we will wait and see if we get that. But the one thing that we can say is that we've moved off of this low impulsively. So it starts to offer up more credibility to the idea that we have a significant pivot here and the bullish count is in play. Can't be absolute about it here, but we can certainly start to warm to the idea that that is the move that's underway. Now, if and when we pivot up here, the anticipation would be, so if we can get through this, now that remains to be seen, but if we can get through this and we get a good pivot up here, so I'm going to go hypothetical now, so potentially now we would be completing a 1 wave up here. Well, then we know that 2 is inevitable. Right, whether it's profit taking or some news event, anything that would cause it to start to sell off, we're anticipating that. We're looking for the second. It's just the cyclical nature of the market and the way we use the Elliott wave to look for those entry zones here. So for us, anything up here that if we can complete this in 5 and then we start that correction, what we want to see is something come down in 3. Yeah, come here. So again, hypothetical, if we see something like this, Let me put the wave on it, right? So we can get a handle on it. So we're looking for something along these lines to give us, now this would be the classic second, right? Where we get an A, B, C. You know, you can't always count on that, but that's approximately, you know, the kind of shape of the pattern that we're looking for. So if, again, I'm hypothetical, if we're going up here, well, then that's probably a little deeper. So here we'd be looking for something anywhere in here. Very common for the A wave to come down to the 50. You get a push up to challenge the high. It rolls over. That's the B wave. So that would be the perfect entry. Now that's assuming that we're going to get through the 618, 65 pocket here, which remains to be seen. So again, I'm hypothetical up here. If we top up here, which is possible, if we can't get through this resistance, then we just kind of move this down here, right? Then it starts to look like that. Now, if that's going to be it. So we know we're looking to be buyers anywhere between the 50 and the 618 for that inevitable second that we'll hope to see, looking for the next entry to get long somewhere, well, technically anywhere in this pocket would be our next buy zone. All right, so no surprise here. Look, we bump into this. You know, we've started to sell off here. So there was that low volume node. We start to pull back a little bit here. Now, that doesn't mean we can't rip again, because we can go down to the, you know, you could go to the 5 minute, you know, really dig in here and say, okay, well, this, we can see this. If you go down here, now, I'm not an advocate for doing this often, but just to make the point here, I would tell you 15 minute is as low as you should go for any significant trading, unless you're a very experienced day trader. There's just a lot of noise down here, but we can see the 1, 2, and then we have potentially the 1, 2, 3. Looks like the 4 is going in. The 4 is going in here relative to this 1, 2, 3, 4. So not to the 4 on the larger degree, but we've got a 1, 2, and then within that, so within that third, we're getting yet another 1, 2, 3. We're in the fourth. So if we were looking, you know, if you were day trading this, so you'd be looking somewhere in here, right? Because we've already got the 1, 2, not off of this, right? So anywhere here, 38 to the 50. So we've got a little prior resistance setting up here. Remember, always a good idea to look left, look for those potential support zones. So there's one, right? You can't ignore this, that prior high there. So look at that. So interestingly, right, so pivot here, one at the 38, one at the 50. Will that be significant? Well, we'll wait and see. But again, going back out, let's go back out. We'll go to the 30 minute and look at this. You know, it's certainly looking good. It's looking good for bulls. We'll have to wait and see. So let me pull some of this off here. All right, so can we get through that? That would be significant. All right, so let's. Here we're RSI is starting to roll over a bit. So again, it's going to be a struggle to get through that, because we know algorithms that sold, right? There's nothing fancy here. Algorithms that sold here at the 50 will continue to sell and defend right up to the 618. Right? Just because they're there doesn't mean that we can't get through it, but that's the likely resistance here that you're running into. So we'll wait and see if we get through it. Maybe it'll do it while I'm recording this video. So now we look at this again. It's trying to get clarity on this. What if we can get another move up here and we get that fifth? Well, we've got a really strong case to be made here for that to be an impulse wave into a one wave, right? So if it's 5 waves off a low, of course, it can be an A wave, but considering the corrective nature that we have here and this impulsive move, I'm leaning towards this as a 1 wave. All right, so, you know, there's a little bit of a hurry up and wait here to see what kind of reaction we get here, if we can get through that. Now, again, just as a reminder, you know, I'm down here on the 30-minute. We got a lot of resistance to get through, so this is significant, but this will be there as well. All right, so, you know, you just got to be aware of those resistance zones that we're likely to run into. So this will be the next one at the 50. There will be algorithms written to sell that. They will defend it just here. So interesting. Look how the 50 is at a low volume node, and the 618 we hit it again. So it's you know, coincidence. I don't know. You tell me. So there's part of it, right? So here's the next one we're going to run into. Both of those low volume nodes. Interesting. So we'll wait and see. Would love to see that get through today. I think that will get the market Oh, it's just so funny. I get people writing me or comments. The bears were really, 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 licking their chops for Bitcoin to 3,000, and I had other people saying, I'm losing faith, man. I'm just not so sure about Bitcoin. That's just about the time. Those are actually some of the best tells I get when I start seeing those comments on YouTube. When I start getting members. People emailing me say I'm not so sure about Bitcoin anymore. It's not like it was. Those are. I wrote back one customer. I said who was thinking about just bailing on crypto in general. I said I can timestamp this. And that was on Thursday. I got that email on Thursday. I said, I can timestamp this for you and promise you that you're reacting emotionally like so many in the market. And the fact that you're just at that point where you're about to just give up on it, that's just about the time you can start to expect the market. So I actually timestamped that for that person who wrote me that email, just so I could show it to him. And from that was when the market was at about 7,300. As we sit here now at 8,800, I don't consider that coincidence. That's typically the emotional cycle. People just start to lose faith, and they're throwing up their hands. They can't take it anymore. They're so far underwater, they start selling. And that's what professionals are waiting for. That point where you're just exasperated and you just say, screw it, sell everything. And guess who's standing there to take the other side of that? Strong hands take it from the weak. Nothing new. All right, hey, just a quick reminder here, just to sort of, I guess I'll call them housekeeping, relative to this channel. So there's been a very strong demand to take this methodology and demonstrate it in more traditional markets. So we are starting a second YouTube channel where we are going to be featuring, we'll be demonstrating, just showing you equities, Forex, futures. As you might find no surprise, as I've often said, the underlying asset makes absolutely no difference as to how you apply this methodology. Absolutely no difference. It wouldn't matter what asset you put in front of me. A chart's a chart. If you put it in front of me, I'm going to show you this applied to that chart in the exact same way. So just because we want to make this information available to traders that maybe don't want to be 100% in crypto, but we just want to diversify in crypto along with the other assets they've diversified into. So we're going to start that channel shortly. The other thing is I get a lot of requests for training or coaching, if you will. That is on our website. So if you're interested, you can go over to tradedevils.com. You'll see the options there, whether you're interested in joining the membership here where you can get access to everything that we do, or you want some one-on-one, that's another option for you, and we do that by the hour. So those are all available to you. You can just head over to tradedevils.com and read more about it there. And with that, I will wrap it for the day. Okay, back to you later.